What if the greatest obstacles in your life aren't other people, but the truths you've been avoiding? Most people spend years chasing comfort, fairness, certainty, and control. They believe there's always more time, that life will eventually become easier, and that happiness comes from getting everything they want. But the Stoics believed something very different. They believed that the most powerful lessons are often the hardest to accept, because growth begins where illusions end. In Part 1, we uncovered uncomfortable truths about human nature. In Part 2, we explored the fears and behaviors that quietly shape people's lives. But this final part goes deeper. These aren't just truths about other people. These are truths about life itself. Truths that can either make you bitter or make you unbreakable. Because once you understand why comfort can become your enemy, why life was never promised to be fair, and why remembering your own mortality can actually teach you how to live, you'll begin to see the world differently. And perhaps that's why the Stoics weren't afraid of hard truths. They knew that reality, when accepted, becomes a source of strength. And the final truth in this video may be the one that changes your life forever. What if the very thing you're chasing is the thing that's quietly holding you back? Most people spend their lives seeking comfort. Comfort in their routines. Comfort in their relationships. Comfort in their beliefs. They avoid difficulty, avoid risk, and avoid anything that threatens the familiar. But the Stoics saw a hidden danger in comfort. Because comfort, when pursued without limits, doesn't make people stronger. It makes them complacent. Think about it. Muscles grow through resistance. Character is forged through adversity. And some of the greatest transformations in life begin when circumstances force us out of what feels safe. Yet most people would rather remain comfortable than become capable. They stay in jobs that no longer challenge them. They avoid difficult conversations. They postpone dreams because discomfort feels inconvenient. And slowly, without even realizing it, comfort becomes a cage. Seneca warned that a life devoted only to ease produces fragile people. People who collapse the moment hardship arrives. The Stoics didn't seek suffering, but they didn't run from it either, because they understood that challenges are not interruptions to life. They are part of life. And perhaps the greatest irony is this: the more you chase comfort, the weaker you become. But the more willing you are to embrace discomfort, the stronger, wiser, and more resilient you become. Because growth has never lived inside the comfort zone, and it never will. Why do so many people stay stuck in the same place year after year? Why do dreams remain dreams, while excuses multiply? The Stoics understood a difficult truth that most people would rather avoid. Taking responsibility is hard. Blaming circumstances is easy. Blaming other people is easy. Blaming bad luck, the economy, your past, or the world around you feels comforting because it protects the ego from an uncomfortable question. What if I'm responsible for more than I want to admit? And that's exactly why so many people seek excuses instead of solutions. Because excuses offer temporary relief. Responsibility demands change. Epictetus taught that while we cannot control everything that happens to us, We are always responsible for how we respond. And that idea terrifies many people because responsibility removes the luxury of being a victim. It forces us to confront our habits, our fears, and the choices we've been avoiding. The truth is, most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they refuse to take ownership. They wait for motivation. They wait for perfect conditions. They wait for someone else to rescue them. But the Stoics never waited. They focused on what was within their control and accepted responsibility for the rest. Because excuses may protect your pride today, but responsibility builds the life you'll be proud of tomorrow. And the moment you stop asking, "Who's to blame?" you begin asking the question that changes everything. What can I do now? And that's where real power begins. How do you know who truly cares about you? Not when life is easy, not when you're successful, not when you have something to offer, but when time passes and circumstances change. The Stoics understood that time is one of life's greatest filters, because time exposes what words often hide. People can promise loyalty. They can speak of friendship and love. They can tell you they'll always be there. But time has a way of testing every promise. Some people slowly drift away when life becomes inconvenient. Others remain close only when they need something. And then there are the rare few, the ones who stay through your failures, your struggles, and your seasons of uncertainty. Those are the people time reveals. Seneca warned against rushing to judge relationships too quickly because true character isn't measured in moments. It's measured in years. Think about your own life. How many people have come and gone? How many promises disappeared with changing circumstances? And how many people remained, even when there was nothing to gain? The Stoics never feared losing people. They understood that time doesn't take away what matters. It reveals what never truly belonged. Because loyalty isn't proven in days. It's proven in seasons. And perhaps that's why time, though painful, is one of life's greatest teachers. Because eventually, everyone reveals themselves. And time never lies. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do some people seem to succeed effortlessly while others struggle despite doing everything right? These are questions humanity has asked for thousands of years. And the Stoics gave an answer that many people find difficult to accept. Life was never promised to be fair. Nature doesn't reward effort equally. Fortune doesn't distribute success evenly. And reality doesn't bend itself to our expectations. Yet most people spend years fighting this truth. They complain. They resent. They ask, "Why me?" as though life somehow owes them perfect outcomes. But the Stoics understood something powerful. Complaining changes nothing. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the universe doesn't operate according to our preferences. It simply is. And while we can't always control what happens, we can control how we respond. Because suffering often comes not from the event itself, but from our refusal to accept that it happened. The truth is, unfairness is part of being alive. People will disappoint you. Opportunities will be missed. Hardships will arrive without warning. And none of it means life is against you. It means you're human. The Stoics didn't waste energy wishing reality were different. They adapted. Because acceptance isn't weakness, it's strength. And perhaps the greatest freedom comes when you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "Given that this has happened, who do I choose to become?" Because life may not always be fair, but your response is always yours. And that's where your power begins. What if the most important truth about life is the one most people spend their lives trying not to think about? One day, you will die. Everyone you love will die. Everything you own, every title you've earned, every worry keeping you awake at night. One day, it will all be gone. To many people, that sounds depressing. But the Stoics saw it differently. They believed that remembering death wasn't meant to make you fear life. It was meant to make you appreciate it. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that he could leave this world at any moment. Not because he was obsessed with death, but because he understood something most people forget. Time is not guaranteed. And because time is limited, every moment becomes precious. Think about it. If you knew you had forever, would you value today? Would you forgive as quickly? Love as deeply? Chase your dreams with the same urgency? Probably not. It is mortality that gives meaning to life. Because what is endless is often taken for granted. The Stoics called this practice memento mori. Remember that you must die, not to make you anxious, but to wake you up, to remind you not to postpone your happiness, not to waste years seeking approval from people who barely think about you, not to delay becoming the person you know you can be, because one day there will be no more tomorrows. And when that day comes, the question won't be how long you lived. It will be whether you truly lived at all. And perhaps that's why the Stoics weren't afraid of death. They were afraid of reaching the end and realizing they never really began. After everything we've uncovered in these 3 videos, one question remains. What do you do with these truths? Do you become cynical? Do you stop trusting people? Do you spend the rest of your life expecting the worst? The Stoics would say no, because wisdom was never about becoming bitter. It was about seeing reality clearly. Yes, people are imperfect. They act out of fear. They seek comfort. They envy, judge, and sometimes disappoint us. And yes, life itself is unpredictable. It isn't always fair. Time passes. People change. And one day, every one of us will face our own mortality. But none of these truths are reasons to lose hope. They're reasons to stop living in illusions. Marcus Aurelius never asked people to be perfect. He simply accepted human nature as it is and focused on mastering his own. Because peace begins when you stop demanding that life be different. When you stop expecting others to behave exactly as you wish. When you stop fighting realities that have always existed. And something remarkable happens. You become harder to offend, harder to manipulate, harder to disappoint, not because you expect less from life, but because you understand it more. The Stoics knew that bitterness traps you in the past, but acceptance sets you free. And perhaps true wisdom isn't learning how to control the world. It's learning how to remain calm in a world you never could control. Because in the end, the greatest victory isn't over other people. It's over yourself. If there's one lesson the Stoics spent their lives trying to teach, it's this. You don't control people. You don't control luck. You don't control time. And you certainly don't control everything life throws your way. But you do control something infinitely more important. You control yourself. And that's where true freedom begins. Because mastering yourself means refusing to let other people's opinions define your worth. It means staying calm when life becomes unfair. It means choosing courage over fear, responsibility over excuses, and wisdom over impulse. It means understanding human nature without hating humanity. And it means remembering that your time is limited, so don't waste it living according to someone else's expectations. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus didn't become legends because they controlled the world. They became timeless because they learned to control themselves. And perhaps that's the ultimate Stoic truth. A peaceful mind is worth more than applause. Character is worth more than popularity. And self-mastery is worth more than power. So as you leave this video, ask yourself one question. If you can't control everything around you, what would happen if you mastered the one thing you can? Because that journey, not wealth, not fame, not approval, is where a truly meaningful life begins. And as always, focus less on controlling the world and more on mastering yourself. Until next time, live wisely, live deliberately, and live like a Stoic.